everyone, and welcome back to this month's episode of the Familial Paradox podcast, episode number 6. We are halfway through the year, technically, when this is coming out. We're about to be in the 7th month, so we're over halfway through a year. But episode 6, the June episode, here we are. It's been a good year. We've been kind of building a foundation of keeping your kids safe from predators and internet safety and all that jazz. We've kind of been starting from the beginning. Some of you may be thinking, man, when is he going to get to talking about just pornography addiction? When is he going to get to talking about, Snapchat or YouTube or whatever it is? Well, here's the thing. I want this channel, I want this podcast, I want it to be a foundational kind of like a library of knowledge for parents and people to access. So basically, if a parent finds this podcast 2 years from now, they can go to the beginning and just really pull a full foundational knowledge of how to keep their kids safe from predators, how to keep their kids safe on the internet, and things like that. And we are still in the midst of growing and building that foundation. But a little bit of a series, is going to start with this episode. A series that may very well carry us to the end of the year. I don't know, though, because that would be 6 episodes, of course, to get us through the end of the year. It might only be 4. It could be 6, though. So who knows? But we're still building that foundation. I want to thank you for if you support what we do at this podcast, if you support what we do in missions, us as a missionary, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Would ask that you would send these episodes, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple, whether you're watching on YouTube, or you're listening on YouTube. You could just have this video playing in the background like I do sometimes when I'm driving. But if you have a parent that you think this could help, this podcast could help, if you have young parents who are just becoming parents and they're kind of scared about how their child is going to interact with the world, please send them this podcast. Tell them to send in their questions. You send in your questions, comment, let us know what you want covered. And if you have any specific questions, let me know. So we're still in the midst of building a foundational knowledge about keeping our children safe. And today starts a little bit of a series on manipulation. So there's this thing normally when I'm doing my trainings, which I am contemplating turning what is now the internet safety training for parents into calling it something of like child safety. Start back right here. Sorry for a little bit of a cut here in the podcast. I had a phone call, but which I normally turn my phone off before doing this, and I didn't, so here we are. But contemplating changing the internet safety trainings for parents, naming them something like child safety workshops, keeping your children safe in that regard. Child safety workshops, parent safety workshops, and having them be on different things. To be quite honest with you, it's getting to a point where there is just too much research and too much information for the length of the training, because preferably for me, I would like to have the training done in 2 hours. But it's getting to a point where I'm having to tell pastors, well, you need to block off a 3-hour time, and I'll get it done somewhere between 2 hours and 15 minutes and 2.5 hours, and that's to cover pornography addiction. And I don't even go as in depth as we can on pornography addiction, but I do go very in depth. And then predator behavior, grooming, and monitoring of devices, and then answering questions. And the biggest part of that, the biggest ministry part of that training in these workshops is the answering questions. And so if the training is too long, then people are not wanting to ask questions at the end of it. They're wanting to go home. So I am actually, contemplating breaking pornography addiction off of that. We have our very own and separate pornography addiction training. And so we have that already. And so we're breaking it off where now the child safety workshops or the internet safety workshops are going to be solely focused on predator behavior, grooming, in monitoring of devices and then answering questions. So, but in those trainings, I get to a point where I I wave top manipulation, manipulative language, manipulative behavior, and I tell parents that I really don't have the time needed in these trainings to um, cover that in its entirety in the way that it would need to be. And so, because of that, we I tell them to go home and study manipulative language and manipulative behavior themselves. I give them a little bit of homework. Go home and study this, and this will help you keep your kids safe. But I think me doing a little bit of a series teaching this would be good information for people to have. And parents, you need to know what manipulation looks like. So today we are starting a series on manipulation. My question is, do parents and families understand manipulation? Do they? Do they understand manipulation in a way and in a depth that they need to keep not only themselves safe? Because listen, anybody, there are people, let me start with this. Anybody on this earth can be manipulated. Anybody. And that might be hard to hear for some people, but anybody on this earth can be manipulated. It's just some people are more resistant to it than others. And it's just, for a manipulator, it's figuring out the way to do it. And there are multiple ways to do that. But today we're going to kind of start off talking about manipulation, and we're going to talk about, a specific part of manipulation. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the tactics of a master manipulator. A master manipulator, I would consider most predators who are grooming children into a situation are master manipulators. I would consider people who are, abusive to their spouses and, their spouses don't leave. I would consider those people master manipulators. So there's quite a few people, but this covers predators, of course. And here's the definition. The definition of a manipulator. A manipulator is a person who uses devious or dishonest means to exploit, control, or influence others for personal advantage. Read it again. A manipulator is a person who uses devious or dishonest means to exploit, control, or influence others for personal advantage, personal gain. Here's what I want you to understand about a manipulator, especially a master manipulator, and when it comes to predators, is there's psychology behind it, right? And there's a lot of psychology behind it, and I've done a lot of research, a lot of understanding of it. I have manipulation when it comes to people who, family and stuff that I grew up with and things like that. I know manipulation well. And there was a time in my life, testimony-wise, that I'm gonna just be straight up honest. I was an instigator, and instigator is a very nice way of saying manipulator. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. And it's part of my testimony and part of a lot of people's testimony, whether you've been manipulated or you've been the manipulator. That is the definition. It's just taking advantage of people for personal gain and doing it in a dishonest way. And the predators that know what they're doing, the manipulators that know what they're doing in a devious way, right? So there's two types of manipulators. Two types. You have the lion and you have the fox. I read this in a book when I was doing research for this, and it's not a book that I recommend because the book is very it's good when it speaks about manipulation, and it's good when it speaks about the research, but it is very dishonest and very disrespectful towards God in the Christian religion. I solely read it to get insight and research into manipulation. And I agree with what it says in this regard wholeheartedly. There is a lion and then there is a fox when it comes to manipulators. A lion is a manipulator that is going to control people through kind of like this brute force strength, intimidation, size intimidation, mental intimidation. They are going to be the people that are going to control through strength, intimidation, fear, right? They are going to be that type person. And then you have the fox. The fox, I would personally say, is more common, though I cannot back that up with statistics, right? So it could be 50-50, but I think the fox is more common. And the fox is the type of manipulator that they are a conniving, devious, dishonest person who does what they do to blend in. They don't control through intimidation. They don't control through brute force. They control through blending in and gaining control from the inside, whether it be a family, a person, whatever it is. And this types, right? The lion focuses solely on control for the most part. They want control. They are after control. And then the fox seeks a couple of things: control and leverage. So control is something that any manipulative person is going to seek and they are going to desire, is going to be control over a situation or a person. But a fox, when it comes to manipulators, is a person that they don't just want control, they want leverage. And that leverage will help them keep the control, right? Because a fox, like we talked about, is not doing what a lion is in ruling through intimidation, fear, and strength. They are ruling through getting on the inside and mentally playing games with people. So here's what we're going to be doing here. The lions in your life, the lions that are out there, the manipulators that rule through brute strength, intimidation and fear, they're a little bit easier to see. Most people, you kind of know who those people are. So not that I won't do an episode where I focus on that, but for the purpose of this series, I believe that we are going to focus on manipulators who fall under the label of a fox because they are harder to see, because they're good at blending in. Here's the thing that you need to know about manipulators. You need to know a couple of their tactics, especially in a lot of these will play into the fox, of course, but a lion manipulator could use this as well. There's a couple of tactics here. So you have gaslighting. I know everybody's heard that. That's a buzzword. Everybody thinks they know what gaslighting is, which you can know what it is definitionally. But I hear people all the time using gaslighting in the wrong way. Gaslighting by definition intends that the person who is doing it to the other person knows what they are doing in the time. The reason I make that clarifying statement is because I've heard people do this before where somebody is recalling a story and they simply just don't remember certain details of the story. And they are saying it in their way, and the other person is like, no, this is what happened. That person that doesn't quite remember what happened, they just think they remember they are not gaslighting you. They just don't remember what happened, right? So there are people that just don't have a good memory, and that does not mean that they're trying to gaslight you. Gaslighting is something where somebody has ill intention. They are doing it on purpose. They know they are doing it. So just wanted to put that out there. Guilt tripping is another tactic that they use. Love bombing, right? Love bombing is a big one. Y'all may have heard me say predators use that a lot. Groomers use that a lot. Playing the victim. Any manipulator is going to be really good at playing the victim. Alienating behavior, or a term that I'll use called, that I just use, and it's not a real word, but islanding. Which basically where a manipulator is going to pull you away from whoever it is, your family, your friends. They are going to isolate you away from those people, and they are going to put you on an island. And once they can effectively put you on an island, then they have you under control. Groomers use this, predators use this, and just manipulators in general use this. So alienating behavior, islanding, isolating, that is one of a big tactic. There are others, of course, but the point remains of these. There's a lot that we could go through, but the point remains of these is that A manipulator, a predator, a groomer will do whatever is needed to come out smelling clean in whatever situation it is. They are going to do whatever they have to do to come out on top, to come out not in trouble, to come out, smelling like roses in a story that is full of mud and dirt, right? And a manipulator's goal is always that in that story full of mud, dirt, is that you are the one that is dirty and they are the one that is not. That's what basically all of these tactics come down to, is that. Today's episode, and I don't think this is going to be incredibly long, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to hit on one particular aspect that plays well to parents and children. Predators will use this. Manipulators will use this, and it works well on children. Today's episode falls under the realm of gaslighting. And under the realm of gaslighting, we're going to talk about one word. We're going to talk about something: curiosity. Curiosity. What is curiosity? There's a word there, and people talk about, oh my goodness, this child is very curious. You have the TV show that I watched when I was a child, Curious George. And curiosity in itself is not a bad thing. Please don't misrepresent what I'm saying here. Don't mishear me. Curiosity is not a bad thing. Here's the definition. Curiosity is a natural human and animal impulse characterized by inquisitiveness, exploration, and desire to learn or understand the familiar. Curiosity at its root drives problem solving and discovery. Because if we were never curious, we would never discover. If we were never curious, we would never find things that people had maybe never found or whatever. And so curiosity is a driving factor of all of that. And listen, curiosity is something that every human on this planet has. Some people may have it more than others, and they want to travel the world and, seek the world's secrets. And then you have others that their curiosity may not be as heavy, as forceful is that. They may be fine staying at home and, not really traveling much. They may only have curiosities that pertain to the city they live in, and that's fine. But every human has curiosity, has this curious nature, because we always want to find the things that we don't know. And a manipulator, any manipulator knows this. Any manipulator knows that curiosity is a big driving factor in anything that a human can be led to do. Predators are one of the biggest things for predators and manipulators, especially manipulators that fall under the label of a fox. One of the biggest things for them is plausible deniability. Plausible deniability. And what does that mean? Plausible deniability, and I didn't look up like a full-on definition for it, but plausible deniability is someone being able to deny something, and they don't have facts to deny it necessarily, but their ability to deny it is plausible. It is possible. It's not 100%. I've got a 100% alibi, and I can deny that I did this. It is they can plausibly and possibly deny something that has happened and their involvement in it. Plausible deniability is something that is extremely important to manipulators, and every manipulator, a lion, a fox, doesn't matter. They are looking for plausible deniability in situations, and a fox would probably look for it more than a lion, but any manipulator is going to use it. And the reason that we're talking about curiosity is because as a predator, a person who wants to manipulate, a person who manipulates people, whether it be with ill intent or not, a manipulator and an instigator knows that if they can pique your curiosity to something, if they can pique your curiosity to a certain aspect of a situation, if they can pique your curiosity in some kind of criminal way, if they can pique your curiosity to, to sex, if they can pique your curiosity to alcohol, to drugs, whatever it is, they kind of like tell you, say it was a drug, a pill they're trying to get you to take. And say they want to get you to take this. They're trying to manipulate you into taking this so that they can control you with it, right? If that were to happen and they're trying to seek plausible deniability, what they're going to talk about is they're going to talk about how cool it is. They're going to talk about how the feeling is so good, how the feeling is the best. It's the best thing that you can do, how they really enjoyed it, how it really changed their life. Oh my goodness, it changed my life. It is so good. It changed my friend's life. I've never had anything bad happen with this. But they won't ask you to take it. They will then tell you these things and they will set it on the table. And they will say, have some if you want. And then your curiosity is piqued, right? To this pill that this person is telling you is really good and makes you feel good and makes your life better and makes you relaxed and all these things. Your curiosity is piqued, and then you're left alone with the pill there. And when your curiosity is piqued and it plays on your brain enough, you decide to take the pill. You take the pill, you get addicted to drugs, you start taking many pills, you start taking harder drugs. And this person is there the entire time, and they are there trying to, and for the people that are just listening, I'm doing a quote unquote here, they are trying to help you. They are acting like they're trying to help you. They're acting like they're trying to get you through this, but in reality, they are the ones that got you hooked. And this can be for drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is. They're the ones that got you hooked, and they're trying to help you. And their plausible deniability in that is that they did not tell you to take it, the first pill. They didn't tell you to take it. All they did is they made you curious. And nobody can go to jail for making somebody curious. That making someone curious means that they, in a roundabout way, means that they didn't make the decision for you. Although, psychologically, they kind of did. So it's a tough situation. It's a tough situation when it comes to curiosity in children, because children are very, very curious little beings. They are very curious. Curiosity, you could say that as you enter adulthood, curiosity maybe goes down a little bit, but I don't think it goes down a whole lot as much as people think. But kids and children and even teenagers are extremely curious individuals. And I don't believe it's very hard to pique their curiosity for certain things. And that can be a very good thing, piquing their curiosity to, Scripture and Jesus and salvation is great. Teaching them that, right? Piquing someone's curiosity and teaching them, aren't the same thing, but any good teacher, any great teacher, is a teacher who can get you to be curious about it yourself rather than just funneling information to you, and it's information that you don't necessarily want. Any good teacher can get you interested in it on your own, regard. And that in itself is not manipulative at all, by the way, just to differentiate here. It's not manipulative, because a good teacher, a person who knows Scripture, a person who knows history, geography, science, whatever it is, if they are a good teacher, instead of you sitting in their class and being like, I don't really want to learn this. I don't really care about science. I don't care about math. Why does it pertain to me? A good teacher will get you to a point where you are actually interested in the subject. And that is because they have done something that has piqued your curiosity to said subject. And once your curiosity is piqued, sometimes it doesn't go away. So, and that is curiosity being used in a good way. The way manipulators use it is in a bad way. Is they pique your curiosity of certain things with ill intent and a hidden agenda to get you to be interested in said things for their own personal gain. If they can get you onto drugs, they can control you. If they can get you into alcohol, they can control you. If they can get you into pornography, they can control you. If they can get you to do something like steal something from a store, they can control you, right? So there are differences there. I want to make that clear. But a manipulator is going to go after your curiosity and your child's curiosity 1000%. Because here's the thing. Once children start getting into that middle school, maybe even up into teenage years, 13, 14, 15, even 10, 11, 12, 9 even, any child is curious. And any child is curious about pretty much anything. But what manipulators and predators have figured out is that children are increasingly interested in, say it's a boy, say it's a girl, what the other, what is the bodily functions, what is, what does the body look like of the other gender. They're very curious about these things. Any child is. And a predator, given the right opportunity, can use that curiosity in a deeply evil way. We have had cases before working as missionaries with missing and exploited kids where girls coming out of homes who are now being trafficked, who are now having sex with multiple men every night to, make money for their pimp or whoever it is. We've had cases where girls, when they tell their story, of kind of a little bit of like, how did you get so interested in this? How did you get so interested in dressing this certain way, revealing way, and using your body and things like that? We've had people tell us that their grandparents, their grandpa, has shown them pornography actively when they were younger. And I'm talking, when I say young, I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. We've had cases where the parents, the dad had shown pornography, the mom. And why did they show their kids pornography? Again, for a manipulator, there's plausible deniability even in this. It's terrible, but even in this, now, doesn't mean legally that they can, get away with it, not necessarily. But plausible deniability in their brain, because any manipulator is going to work a story in their brain to make them, like, they are not just trying to convince you that they are clean. They are trying to convince themselves that they are clean, if that makes any sense. In their head, they are constantly editing the story to try and make themselves feel better about what they are doing. So in their head, a predator is going to have the plausible deniability of that the children are going to be, we live in a very sexual world. We live in a very sex sells world. Sex is everywhere. Pornography is everywhere, all over the internet. You got sex scenes in movies and TV shows. You've got a lot going on in the world in regards to sex, and these people will have this plausible deniability in their head of that. Well, I would rather them do it under my roof. Now, we know looking back that that's not really why they did it, but that's what they'll say. They'll say, well, I wanted to show them while they were under my roof because they're going to see it one day. I would rather them see it when I'm showing it to them rather than seeing it somewhere else. And I'm going to be very honest with you, parents. If you're a parent that uses that type of excuse when it comes to, obviously pornography is a very extreme thing, but when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to drugs, listen, I won't give my full thoughts on that, but that is not a good excuse to do anything with your child. That I would rather them do this in these things, right? Sex. Well, if they're going to have sex with their girlfriend, I would rather them do it under my roof, so you let the girlfriend sleep over at your house. And some of you may have just heard me say that and be like, oh my goodness, who would do that? You would be surprised at the amount of people that do that allow that to happen. The alcohol, the drugs, I would rather them do it under my house than go out there and find it somewhere else and end up dead. Well, you're introducing them to it, so they could end up dead anyway. It's not going to drive the percentage down. I think it's an evil um, misconception that has been put into parents' minds and in society, that that is a way to introduce your kids to things, that as long as they do it under your roof, that it's okay in some way. And all it is doing for a predator is getting your kids to where they are curious about these things and a predator can use it. A predator wants that plausible deniability, whether familial predator, whether a predator of someone that you don't even know, whether it's a predator that a teacher, a basketball coach, whatever, they're looking for that plausible deniability. And if they can pique your child's curiosity to sex, if they can pique their curiosity to pornography, then the topic of a predator approaching your child to touch them inappropriately and to take their clothes off and to, right? Then the door is open. The mind is softened. And what does a manipulator need in a person? They need a mind that is pliable. And if someone's mind can be softened towards some certain thing, then your mind is pliable to someone. Now, I'm not saying to be that person that is unteachable. I do have to make a lot of caveats here because it's nuanced. It really is. It's not to say that you should be a person that your mind and your heart is now made of stone and that you are unteachable. But you will have people that will come in and pique the curiosity of you, of your children, and your question in your mind should be, why are they doing this? Could it be in some, just they have no ill intent and they are truly just trying to pique your curiosity to something that they think you might like and they think that you might be able to enjoy together? Absolutely. Absolutely. But a predator is going to use it and is going to the reason they're doing is going to be kind of blurry, and it's going to be something that is not necessarily that you would not normally do. It's going to be something that is not normal. It's going to be something that might be off the table for what you would normally do. That's why I'm using the examples of pornography, drugs, and alcohol, because normally those are the things that the predator are going to use to pique your curiosity. And so that is how the predators use curiosity. If a manipulator can pique you, this is the last thing I wrote down. If a manipulator can pique your curiosity, they have you right where they want you. The question is where is that curiosity being piqued and why? So I'm not talking about your friend comes to your house and they're like, hey, let's trade Pokemon cards together, and they're piquing your curiosity to something new, or let's play Catan, let's play Risk, let's play Minecraft together, whatever it is. I'm not saying piquing curiosity in healthy ways and, in something that you can enjoy with a friend is them manipulating you. It's not. But if they can find your curiosity and pique your curiosity on things that are more taboo, I would keep an eye on the person who tries to do that to you or your children. And honestly, if they're doing it to your children, I would remove that person from their life entirely, because that's a person that can't be trusted. If a person in your life has tried to pique the curiosity of your children to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, I would not have those people around my child under any circumstances, no matter if they're related to me or they're just a person that goes to my church. I hope this is making sense, because the reason that this falls under gaslighting is, that I mentioned at the beginning, is the whole purpose of gaslighting, and kind of one of the things that it hinges on, is that plausible deniability. If a predator knows that you may not have the best memory, or they know that there are certain things in the story that you definitely wouldn't remember, or maybe you're blurry on because maybe you were drinking, or something like that, whatever. Or maybe you just forget certain things because you have 7 kids and you're busy, which is totally fine. I'm not trying to push anybody on that. But if they know that there is a way and that you're typically a person who forgets certain details and who forgets certain things about stories or whatever, and they can go in with that plausible deniability and change and tweak certain information and certain facts about the story to make them look better than they were, then they will. That is called plausible deniability, and that is called gaslighting. And they will use the plausible deniability and your curiosity to get you into a space where they can start to mold your mind to what they want it to be. And when they get you into that space, you're in a dangerous place. If you know someone who is in a space like this, who they're being manipulated, who they're being isolated, their curiosity was piqued by somebody, and now they were living one way, now they're living a complete other because somebody was able to get into their mind about it, and it's maybe not the best for their life. What can we do? Well, if a predator has gone to the lengths that predators need to do and manipulators need to do to gain that plausible deniability, to pique the curiosity, and to have no, technically their hands are off, right, in it. You couldn't take it to court and prove it. If they've gone to the lengths to do that, then that person who is in that situation, they are under control at that point. And if they are under control, what can you do? You can pray. You can try to get to them. You can try to get through to them. But here's the thing is that whatever you say to that person, if they are truly under this type of control, whatever you say to that person, whatever you say is going to get back to whoever the manipulator is. And then at that point, you will not be there whenever it does get back to the manipulator, and the manipulator can use it sometimes to further push the person away from you because they will be able to twist whatever you're saying because you aren't there. So, to be honest, the best tactic, prayer, and be available. Because if that person does realize that they've been manipulated and they need out and they need to get away from this person, if they get to the point where they realize that, then you need to be available. And it's kind of just a waiting game. It's a waiting game of that, and it's a waiting game of, well, does the manipulator slip up? Does the manipulator slip up and do something that they aren't supposed to do? Do they hit the person? Do they abuse them? Well, you can get them then. There is something that you can actively work against then, and you can work for it, work for the person. Always keep the person that you love in mind when doing these things, because you can get jaded to a point where the person that you love has been manipulated, they've been molded, and now they lie frequently, and now all they want to use you for is money, and they want to do this and that, and they don't want to be around family, and they only want to be around this person. And you can get very jaded. You can get very, just kind of done with that situation, and I get that, and I know that it happens, but you've got to keep in mind that that person, the way they're acting, has been manipulated by somebody, has been built by somebody, it has been programmed by somebody. So it's not the person you remember when they were 10, 15 years old. It's a different person. And you praying for them will do, because prayer works, guys. Prayer works, will help and do wonders, and be ready to help them. Because if you write them off, who will be there when they're ready to get out? So pray, pray, pray. And if you ever find yourself in this situation, realize, ask yourself why someone's piquing your curiosity to certain things, or piquing your children's curiosity to certain things. And if that answer in your mind is something that may not be wholesome, that may not be good, it might be time to do a little bit more investigating. So, like I said, this wasn't going to be an incredibly long episode. Definitely not an hour, well under an hour. But in this series, what we're going to be talking about with manipulators and the way they use these tactics, and they use your curiosity against you, and they use certain things against you. In this series, the purpose is so that you as parents can learn and put to words exactly what a predator is and what they do. And if you can put to words what a predator does, then you can understand it in a more rounded way to, if you see it in your life, in your child's life, you can call it out and you can keep them safe. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in July.